have the special pleasure today of introducing someone who I really admire, Chuck Smith Jr. Some history on him. When we moved down to the area here, my wife and I, we were looking for a church, and someone said, "Oh, you got to go to Capitol Beach Calvary. It's really good, and the pastor's really good." So we went there, and I started noticing, when he was preaching, it's like, this guy's really good. So we ended up being regular members there. My wife ended up eventually being on the worship team as a singer, and then eventually, Chuck moved on. But so I've known him for probably 30 years. He also edited my first 3 books, Healing the Mind and Body, the trilogy. I apologize for that, by the way, having you have to do all that work, because it was a lot of work. He also, with my new book, The Corona Protocol, he helped me with that and certain sections of that book, which really helped me quite a bit. And he's been someone I've admired for many years, and now he has a church. It's called Reflection. It's Reflexion. We recently moved. We recently moved from Dana Point to San Clemente, which is in South Orange County, California. Beautiful new location that we're at now. And I wanted Chuck to come in because I wanted him to explain why he doesn't like the word church, and why he doesn't like to be called a pastor. So I wanted him to comment a little bit on that, which is really interesting, actually. And things have really changed at this new church. Instead of having a band and all this loud music, it's very, very peaceful. We do several minutes at the very beginning of quiet meditation. It's all completely quiet, a little bit of background music, a little guitar music in the background. It's really a completely different approach. And I wanted to kind of take the subject away this segment about, I talk a lot about medications. It's what I do all day. I'm a drug pusher. But I wanted to not talk about medications this time and actually just focus on other ways of treating anxiety disorders. So I talk to my patients a lot about relaxation techniques, things I've learned like from him and in the church, like how to breathe properly when you have anxiety, and how to, so there's other coping strategies that we talk to patients about to learn to cope with stress, especially acute anxiety when it hits people and they don't know what to do, and they're thinking about going to the emergency room because they're thinking they're going to stop breathing or they're having a heart attack. So learning to breathe and and I want him to talk about contemplative prayer and what that means. And so anyway, I think that's probably enough of an introduction. So instead of me continuing to talk like I tend to do, I want to turn it over to you, Chuck, and thank you for coming in.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So regarding church, I don't have anything against church, but I did that for like 40 years of my life, regular institutional thing. And the problem that I want to get away from is the idea of expectations that people have about church. It's not necessarily a positive word, out there in popular culture. Some people immediately think religion is oppressive, or I had a bad experience with it, or I'm beyond that. And so I wanted instead just to be known as a spiritual community. Let it be, broad enough that people can come in and not feel like they're supposed to look a certain way or behave a certain way. Really no expectations, and just check it out, just see and listen to it, see if they like what they hear, and meet the people, see if they like them. So there's no ambition here about growing a large organization. We're small, and I'm very pleased with that. I'm very content with that, because I mean, because, a spiritual community, the idea of community is you actually know people, you interact with them, your lives merge and you're there for each other. As far as pastor goes, what I did not want was, again, the expectations. A pastor has to always be there for everything, that he performs services. So for me, if I perform a wedding, like I'm going to do for Logan and Sam in a few months, I want to know these people. It's not like I have to be a part of their life, but I want to know them well enough to speak to them personally. I don't want to perform services for strangers in that sense.
By the way, Logan and Sam, that's my son and my daughter-in-law, Samantha. She calls her Sam. They're getting married in September, and Chuck is going to be doing the service, thankfully. So anyway, sorry to interrupt it.
That's okay.
Just explain what Logan and Sam means. That's my son and soon-to-be daughter-in-law. So.
Yeah, and they're both beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. So I can say, Logan, Sam, we're here today, and it's personal, and that's real. It's not me just learning names so that I can act like we have a personal relationship. So sometimes I've been asked, hey Chuck, would you perform a memorial service for my cousin's friend whose uncle died? And there's such a distance there that, I'm like, why me? Isn't there someone closer to the family who can do that? Because I don't really see myself as someone who performs services. I see myself as someone in relationship with other people, part of their life. Even if I'm on the periphery, I still want that connect. So it's not like I'm against church and pastoring, the fact of the matter is the services I perform are pastoral. They're caring, caregiving, helping people in their spiritual journey. Some of it is spiritual direction, but it's not the profession anymore so much of being a pastor.
You'd said to me, I'll never forget, years ago, you told me that back in Calvary, Capitol Beach, that, what really was exhausting was doing counseling and doing basically being a psychotherapist in a sense with people. And that just, that I can understand that, I mean, people ask me, do you do therapy? I don't do therapy. I'll talk to people. I get to know my patients, just like you get to know people in your in the community that we're in really well. I get to know my patients very, very well. I get to know their families. I get to know their kids' names, and sometimes their pets come in. I love to get to know my patients, but I'm not going to sit there for an hour and do counseling. That's just not what I do. It's not what I want to do. It's not what I trained to do. It's like I'll figure out the meds, and then that's it. And then I'll see you next time.
Well, yeah, and because it was expected, you're a pastor, you're going to counsel. It was like sometimes, like you said, I was expected to do psychotherapy without any training in that. That's not what I'm about. So let's talk about the spiritual issues, and they can have impact on a large swath of our lives. But I'm a specialist in that regard. But like you, I also know when to refer out. It's like I really think that therapy could help. I mean, it's helped me. And so I don't mind, directing people that way. But yeah, no, it was that. But it was also when any community of people grows large and there's lots of interaction, there has to be some kind of organization and some kind of structure. And, I started that church and had been its senior pastor for like 30 years. So we had all kinds of staff, we had all kinds of activities. And what happened is this institution evolved. And I think that's probably necessary. The institution is like the skeletal system, the communication network and everything, all that has to be in place. But for me, the life of the church was a community, God with his people and community. And the institution part, I wasn't prepared for. And I think that's what became so depressing for me. And, when you and I first had conversations about depression and psychotropic medications, it had a lot to do with, things from childhood, but it also had a lot to do with the situation I was in and the demands that were placed on me. 3 years out from Capitol Beach Calvary, I missed the community. There were, specific families, like I had performed their weddings, I had dedicated their children, my children, were growing up with their children. And I realized I really missed the community. And if I thought about walking back into my office door, I just said, oh, I'm so glad I'm not there. Because there'd be a stack of phone messages waiting for me. And it was demanding expertise that I didn't have and I didn't want to develop.
Was it difficult? I mean, if people don't know, Chuck Smith Senior started Calvary Chapel. There's a film about him called, is it Jesus Revolution? Yeah.
Yeah, the better film is actually a documentary called What God Hath Wrought.
Okay. But so Chuck Smith is very well known, and so obviously, being his son and being junior, did you feel there was a lot of expectations on you? Was that a lot of pressure that was put on you?
Well, fortunately, no, because when we first came to Dana Point, we were one of the first secondary Calvary chapels. So I was far enough away from Costa Mecca that I was able to, just be myself and do my thing. And I always felt that freedom. So no, fortunately not. The whole time that I was at my dad's church, yeah, I lived not so much under his shadow, but in conformity with the way that he went about ministry. And he could handle the institutional part. He was definitely more of a public, extroverted person than I ever was.
Yeah, I grew up in I grew up in the church from the beginning, a Lutheran church specifically. But where I went to church when I was a high school, junior high, became a Pentecostal church, and so not only liturgy, but also, people speaking in tongues and lots of music and, way different than the church you're at now. I mean, the church Reflection I really love because it's just, do I really miss that? No, I mean.
Yeah, it can be fun.
Yeah, I mean, does Denise miss doing 3 services on a Sunday? And then not really.
Right, yeah, right.
She enjoyed it at the time, but after a while I was like, ugh, but yeah, Reflection I really like. And by the way, people who who aren't in South Orange County, you can see the service, online. Is it Reflection Connection? Is it or
Reflection, a spiritual community on Facebook?
Right. So when my son Sam or my son Logan and Sam, when they don't want to make the drive, they see it online. Actually, they watch it live actually at the time of the service. So. But yeah, we really enjoy. So to speak to us about, again, I talked before about relaxation techniques and breathing, and I know you have a section in my first book. There's the second book actually. There's a chapter called Managing Stress, and you walk us through a guided meditation in that chapter, which I love. Can you talk to us about that? About the role of that and what does contemplative prayer mean?
Okay, yeah. contemplative prayer is really a form of Christian meditation. It's silent prayer. It's prayer where you listen rather than speak. And some background to it. I met a Benedictine monk in a hermitage up near Big Sur. And through several conversations with him, he introduced me to contemplative spirituality. Now, I had been interested in meditation for a long time and had read, different books of research on it, mostly from a Western point of view. And talking to him, he just opened up the whole thing for me really well. One important moment, I was telling him about all the negative self-talk that I was doing on this particular day that we met. And he said, well, I'm surprised. He said, I'm not surprised that you'd have these negative thoughts. He said, I have negative thoughts about myself too, probably not to the degree that you do. He says, but I'm surprised that you would identify with them. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my feelings. And if I realize I'm caught up in a thought or feeling, he says, I just switch levels. And that sounded so wonderful to me, but I had no idea what he meant by switching levels. But I thought, wow, if I could change channels, not be on this worry channel, not be on this depressive channel, not be on this anxiety channel. And so in time, I realized that not allowing those things to define me, it's like for years I've said I'm a depressive. But perhaps a healthier thing to say would be I have depression, but it's not me and it doesn't define me. But when you have severe anxiety, it feels like it defines you. If you have depression, you feel like it defines you. And I'm sure the same with any mood disorders. In the heat of it, it just covers your whole horizon. You are looking through these depressed eyes and everything is miserable. And people who don't have these kinds of disorders cannot understand them. And I think that's wonderful. They shouldn't have to. It would be nice if they're sympathetic, if they realize, well, I really don't know what's going on with you, but my heart goes out to you. But I could be, say, in high school with a group of friends, we're down at the beach, we're watching the sunset, and it's beautiful. I can even see that it's beautiful, but feel nothing. And they're oohing and awing. They're giving expressions of the pleasure of the beauty of it, and I don't feel that pleasure. So that's when the disorder defines a person. So what I discovered, what Romuald meant by switching levels, he meant that he shifts from being in thought to being in awareness. And that's like taking a step back. In Spanish, if someone's cold, they don't say, I'm cold. They say, I have cold.
Tengo frío.
Exactly. And what does that do? What does that mean? It means, well, I'm aware of being cold, but it doesn't own me. It doesn't define me. So that's one way that we can approach this. It's okay, well, what do I do if I am depressed? So the question is, how do I switch levels? What does that mean? And the how is, well, what did grandma tell you when you lost your temper all the time? She'd say, stop, count to 10, take deep breaths. I think you've read The Tipping Point by Gladstone.
Love that part.
Okay, he has a section in it where he talks about a curve. When you're trying to break a habit, like say smoking, that you'll get that feeling like, oh, I really need a cigarette. And it builds and it builds and it builds. And if you can hold out, it begins to diminish. And that's the curve. And so, I sweated it out, but I didn't take that drink, or I didn't lose my temper at the kids, or whatever it is. So what can help me get through that transition? Actually, breathing can help. But conscious breathing, taking control of my breath, beginning with a deep, slow inhalation, and then breathing out with another. What I learned when we went through childbirth classes is this was a cleansing breath. And what is it cleansing? Well, it's cleansing your mind. If you pay attention to the air as it comes into your lungs, however you feel that. Some people focus on the tip of their nose, the cold air coming in, the warm air going out. Some focus on how their body accommodates that air by stretching and contracting. By paying attention to breathing, something as simple as breathing, you're changing what's going on in your brain. All that anxiety now diminishes. When one part of the brain is very active, other structures of the brain relax. So there's not as much neural activity in those other structures. If we pay attention to our breathing, if we focus on being aware, and really it's about awareness. Where am I going to focus my awareness? But it's realizing that awareness is who you are. This is your true self, the aware self. Thoughts, they're just contents. They are things that you can be aware of. Same with feelings. Now, feelings can be overwhelming, but by switching to awareness, it engages your brain in such a way that whatever that impulse was diminishes. Now, again, there are neuroscientists who are talking about this a lot. Daniel Siegel is a great one to read. His reading is very accessible to just about anyone. There's also a professor, I think that he's at USC, as I recall. I emailed him one time because he had written a couple of books, and I wondered if he was going to write a handbook to go with him. I thought it'd be helpful. But he says that there is, let's say, a gating mechanism in your brain. So the amygdala gets this worried message from the brain stem, emergency, emergency, and it sends it to the prefrontal cortex. Work this out. We've got a problem here. And so you have this network through the cingulate gyrus up into the executive functions of the brain. And of course, we're hopeless. Everything in our memory, the way our parents treated us, the failure we felt that we were at school academically or athletically, it's hopeless. We're never going to get out of this. And the executive part of the brain says, well, I can't do anything about that. And now you've got this loop where it's just intensifying the despair or the anxiety or whatever it is. But that gets broken if in that moment where I realize I'm starting to slide, if I move from whatever my thought is, whatever my feeling is, to awareness of this present moment. What is here now? And with that, your brain is now paying attention, and you have control of it. You're focusing your attention on this moment, on this breath, on this next breath, on this next breath. I have wondered recently if it would be possible to combine slow, deep breaths and relaxation, sometimes in a more agitated state, do some of the Wim Hof type breathing, where there's a rapid inhalation, and not a complete inhalation, but partial, for like 30 breaths, and then holding your breath for 30 seconds, and then a deep, deep inhalation. And if that wouldn't, just that focus on breathing, again, I'm forced to be aware of my breath. If that wouldn't help to break some of those more obsessive thoughts or intense thoughts. But that's the basics of it. And what happens when I become aware of this moment? Well, I realize there's beauty in this moment. I realize there's music if I'm listening for it. I realize there is a pleasant atmosphere. And now I can be with that. And if I look for that in particular, so I'm not looking at the dishes that I didn't do this morning and think I'm such a scumbag, like what's the matter with me? If I am looking for the beauty of the moment, for the wonder of this moment, this is quite a wonder that I'm even breathing right now. How does my body do this? And how does it do it when I'm not thinking about it? Because right now I'm thinking about it and I'm controlling it. But how is it controlled when I'm not thinking about it? And there's so much to hold us in wonder if we will mindfully shift gears. So that's pretty much, yes, as a Christian, when I'm in awareness, I want especially to be aware of God's presence. God's here with me now. I'm not alone in this. I have all these wonderful promises that, He won't leave me. He won't ever abandon me. Whatever harm others have done to me, He's here to, lessen the pain of it. He's here to heal it. And what happens is, if we have a consistent practice of meditation, it changes our brain over time. It actually rewires the neurons in our brain so that it becomes our first reaction. It's in my own life, it's really nice to see how it's affected my driving in traffic. Around here in South Orange County, it can just be unhappiness. A while back, I was picking up my oldest granddaughter of my youngest son from school, and I was frustrated with traffic. And it amuses her sometimes to see Grandpa uptight like that. And I realized she was looking at me, and I said, okay. I took a big deep breath. I said, I'm going to drive Christian now. And she just kind of gave me a sideways glance, and I said, I forgive you to all the other drivers. But really, when you realize, and maybe it takes your spouse to tell you, you haven't been swearing so much lately. I haven't? No. How did you do that? I don't know. Maybe it's my breathing. Maybe I haven't been getting so angry so easily lately. And so those behaviors that reinforce mood disorders, those behaviors become less intense. And that every time you realize that, that's a win. We're getting through this thing. We're getting past this thing, which is the goal.
Yeah. I enjoy exercise. I walk every morning about 3 miles, about 45 minutes. And that's kind of my time to kind of meditate, really, because I'm out. It's early in the morning, and not a lot of people out. And it's just the breathing. I mean, it forces you to breathe properly when you're power walking like I do. It's not like a dog walk stroll. I'm pumping and going.
Right.
and a lot of hills where we live too, so a lot of uphill, and just I'm sweating by the time I'm home, but it's really relaxing, And I tell people, I talk to my patients all the time about breathing, and I said, either if you're at a place where you're at work, you can't leave, either at your desk or go to the bathroom, go into a stall and just stop, breathe, stop, Or if you can, go outside the building, walk around a few times, just get outside, get out in nature, get outside, because sometimes you just need to get out of the building and get some fresh air. Because when you walk, you have to breathe. And so either I say walk if you can. If it's late at night, no. If it's if it's
right.
safe, fine. But yeah, I think and that's really been helpful for a lot of my patients who say who don't at the beginning. It sounds too easy. It just sounds way too easy. Come on,
That's right.
But I've had so many people who said, "Yeah, you're right." Now, I was able to stop going to the emergency room because I listened to what you said. I did the breathing, and I said, you know what? I'm not having a heart attack. I'm too young for that. The odds of me having a heart attack are very low.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to stop breathing. I can tell that I'm going to keep breathing. And okay, I'm okay now. I'm actually, I think I'm going to be okay.
And paying attention while you're doing this to what you enjoy about this power walk. What are my leg muscles doing now? How does this feel? What am I feeling in my body? That kind of attention is exactly what breaks the spell of those repetitive ruminations and all that negative self-talk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but thank you for coming in today.
My pleasure.
I really enjoyed, and like I said, thank you so much for everything you've done with the books. I know it was a lot of work, and you're a busy guy, and I'm sure that you were about to throw them in the trash can at certain points, doing it. But thank you for hanging in there with me on that, and the books would not be the same without you. There's no way they would be as good without your guidance with these. And because I didn't know what I was doing, and I've read your books, and they're all excellent. And so, I really urge people, if you want to join us at church, look up Reflection. Again, it's Reflexion, Reflection. It's currently in San Clemente in Southern California. And I love it, and my wife and Denise, we really enjoy the church, and we're looking forward to you with the wedding coming up in September, with you coming down and doing that for us. We really appreciate it.
I'm looking forward to it too, and keep doing the wonderful work that you're doing, Paul.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it, and really pleased that you're here. That I can send people to you, and the need is there.
Yeah, I love doing what I do. I think, why do I love it? I just love the results. I love seeing people who are just miserable, and they come up with a smile on their face, and I think, is this the same person?
Right.
And they just, when I see that, it just makes everything worthwhile. When I hear them saying, I was almost suicidal. I was giving up on my life, and I thought, if this is what life is, I'm going to give up, and then I'm not going to give up anymore. And it's just amazing, like when you change one person, how the whole family, everything, the relationships.
You've changed the dynamics of the family.
Of everything,
yeah.
and the family members will call me and they say, oh my gosh, what you've done to my son or my husband or whatever, and it's just a pleasure to do what I do and to get to see the results I see, and that's what drives me to keep doing it. And people tell me, oh, you're getting so busy, you're writing books, you're doing a TV show now, you're not going to stop practice, are you? I go, no, I'm not going to stop practice. Are you kidding me? I'm not. Now that I'm not writing anymore, which is a huge relief. I mean, I'm so sick of writing. I'm just done with it. And now that I have so much more free time, I don't think I'll start practicing. My dad's 88 and still working, so I don't think I'll stop practicing for a long time. And because I can't imagine stopping practice. It's where I learn, and I don't want to stop helping people. I want to teach. So the next stage of my career is going to be teaching doctors. which I really look forward to. And so am I slowing down or giving up? No, are you kidding me?
Good.
There's no way. There's no way I'm stopping until the Lord tells me it's time now. So,
right.
But thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay. I hope you enjoyed the show today. If you have issues with mental health, or if you know someone who needs help, I'm available. If you want to contact my office, my website is drpaulcoronamd.com. That's DR for doctor. And you can also learn more about me on my website. My phone number, if you want to contact my office directly, is 949-481-0118. If you want to learn more about my methods and what I do, my latest book, I recommend The Corona Protocol, a scientifically proven medical solution to stop addiction, bullying, homelessness, school shootings, and suicide, 30 years in the making. In this book, I tell 30 original short stories about people. And I also have my first 3 books, Healing the Mind and Body, the trilogy, available online. I look forward to you joining me again on the next episode of the Dr. Paul Show.